What is going on, guys? I apologize for my voice and the somewhat lack of uploads this week. I have COVID for I think this is my fourth time. It's just, man, I'm falling apart. This 2024 into 2025 has been, it's been a rough go of things, but I am alive. So, we're going to be talking about something, though, that is shocking and will perhaps take your breath away, even if you don't have COVID. And it's because potentially the most expensive watch ever has hit the market. Now, not all of you are vintage nerds. Not all of you care about the, auction space when it comes to wristwatches. And I get it. Like, I'm not in that space either. I don't have deep enough pockets to even be in the room with these people bidding on these kinds of watches. But I am an horology nerd, and specifically, I do really like vintage watches. So paying attention to these things is really, really interesting. So I want to introduce to you this vintage Patek, okay? This looks pretty standard when you're talking about vintage Trinity watches, right? You have the moon phase, triple date. This one has a chronograph complication. And so you see this, and it looks kind of like the archetype of a Trinity vintage special watch, right? Even has this beads of rice bracelet. And it's this bracelet that is a game changer in regards to this watch's price. Okay, this is one of only four known watches in steel. Okay, this is steel. It's not white gold. It's not silver. And it's okay. This is a 1518. Only one of four in steel, and this is the only one ever produced or sold. Excuse me. Only one ever sold with an original bracelet. Okay. So it's funny when you get into watch collecting, but specifically the vintage market. This is why I've made so many videos about the nuances of the vintage market and what questions you have to ask and what you have to pay attention to and why it's not for beginners. If you enter the hobby, I always say there's a clear delineation between watch collecting and vintage watch collecting. With modern watches, there aren't as many variables. With vintage watches, this year can change this. This month, this happened. There's dial variations. There's index variations. The stamp here should be different on this case back because this year they put it different. It's crazy, especially when you come to brands that are as prolific as like Omega, where they've produced a million different kinds of variants of a million different kinds of watches. So, but this one specifically, I think is very, very cool because it is steel, which makes it much more wearable than a softer material like gold. And I think it's awesome that this has an original production steel bracelet. And this is the only one ever. Okay, so just so you know, these 1518s, apparently they only made like under 300 of them in all materials. And I think it was like yellow gold, potentially white gold, and steel. And the crazy thing is they've only made four known that are in steel. And this is the only one ever out of the whole lot that was sold originally on the bracelet. Okay. So one of these 1518s back, I think in 2018, let me see. It sold for, like a million Swiss francs. 2016. This sold not this one, but one sold for a million Swiss francs. So this one is up for sale on the bracelet. And what do you think it's going for now in 2025? Well, Monaco Legend is starting with the asking price of 20 million. 20 million. Now, I don't know who even buys these. Like, who buys these? Well, people that have a lot more money than myself. I would absolutely love this watch. I'm a big fan of vintage chronographs. I'm a big fan of triple date moon phases. My favorite, like, all-time grail watch is a Rolex 6062, which is a triple date moon phase. But here, I have an option for you guys. Let's say you're doing well. Let's say you do have deep pockets, but not 20 million deep pockets. Chat is asking $20 million or 20 million Swiss francs. Here has the dollar sign, so apparently it's $20 million. But check this out, okay? If you have deep pockets, but not 20 million deep pockets, I'm going to give you an option that's going to scratch this itch that I think is an even more wearable watch, that I think is the value option. And it's kind of silly considering the watch I'm about to recommend to you, a value option. But let's take a look. I would say you move over to another Trinity watch with this Audemars Piguet Remaster. Okay, this is the Remaster 1, not the Remaster 2, which I think is also a really cool watch. This is the Remaster 1. Has fancy lugs, has these wide vintage pushers. This is not a triple date moon phase, okay? It's not a 1-to-1. But when we're looking at Holy Trinity chronographs with vintage appeal, you can, if you are an incredibly ultra rich person, yes, you can shell out 20 million buckaroos for this, and you'll be a badass. And you will know what it is. Most people probably won't, but you will look at this watch and cherish it and be very happy. This, if you have it on your wrist, people will also not really know what it is. And that's perfectly fine, because what do I say? You should go into watch collecting and watch purchasing for yourself and no one else. But this watch is a little bit too big, in my opinion. I think that their big mistake was upsizing this watch. Again, this Patek might look big, but in reality, it's a 35 millimeters. This is a 35 millimeter watch with a Valjoux movement. It's an old chronograph. Okay. This is far too big. 14.6 millimeters thick. It's only 40 millimeters, but I think it looks quite large. I don't know the size of this guy's wrist, but I think they made it too big. However, I really do like the two-tone, how there's gold on the bezel, gold on the crown and pushers. You can see it a little bit better here. And a gorgeous movement. Gorgeous. With the kind of stippling here, or I should say, the knurling on the rotor. Just really nice contrast, really gorgeous. Now, is it the same as that Patek? Absolutely not. Is it inexpensive by any stretch of the imagination? Absolutely not. In fact, this is limited edition. Let me see if there's... I think Hodinkee posted the price. This is not a new watch. This came out, I think, like 3 years ago or something. It's not cheap. Let me see if I can find a price. Oh my gosh. $53,000. Okay, so it's incredibly expensive. That's a car. That is a car on your wrist. But it's not $20 million. So that's just something to take into consideration. Anyway, would I choose this over the Patek? Probably not. But, I mean, if I had $53,000 to spend on this Patek, there are a bunch of other watches that I'd be happy with. But this is a great option. I think this is a gorgeous watch. I just wanted to share with you that when this watch sells, I'm assuming for $20 million, it will be the most expensive watch ever sold. So, it's pretty crazy. In excess of $20 million. That's insane. It's going to be one of the most expensive watches ever sold. But let me know what you think about this, guys. I'm going to go to my other channel and try to do a segment over there. I'm pretty under the weather right now, so prayers would be nice. Let's get some prayer hands in the chat. I'm Jory Goodman, the Time Teller. As remember, I didn't invent time. I just tell it. By the way, it's 10:15 a.m. and we just got down to business. Love you guys. I will see you hopefully tomorrow if I wake up.